Yo, this is RPPR episode 141.
D9. Oh, God, sorry.
That's
happened so much times.
Yeah, I almost did it too.
Yeah, it is. This is episode 141 out of the can.
141.
141.
Because we're talking about canned adventures, published scenarios. We're going to be talking about, and I'm going to be talking about the last 6 that I ran, which were, Working Group Icarus. The Delta Green scenarios that I've been posting recently on RPPR. Deanna, something.
Oh, yeah. Where nothing bad happened and we all retired happily.
Yeah.
Puppies in Light.
Yeah.
Puppies in Light.
Puppies in Light.
Puppies in Light. It was a fun time for all. And so, yeah, we're not doing a proper post-mortem of Working Group Icarus because the entire campaign was just a framing device so I could run one published scenario after the other.
And see how long we last.
And see how long it lasts. And there we go. And yeah. It was a lot of fun. But before that, I do have a bit of news for our PBR.
Oh, my God.
It is...
that's just got to stop.
I recently got a review copy of a new graphic novel biography of Kali Ghati. This is called Rise of the Dungeon Master. It's being published by Nation Books. It's coming out May 9th. And I've read it, and I'll talk more about it in the shout-outs. It was a interesting, fun little graphic novel. It not only talks about Kali Ghati's creation of D&D and his life story, also talks about Dave Arneson, the co-creator of Dungeons & Dragons. Also talks about explaining what Dungeons & Dragons is, which obviously for us is, and if you're listening to the podcast, old hat. But, this is the kind of book you would want to hand out to, non-role players that, like, here's something that kind of explains what our hobby is.
Read it at your own peril.
Yeah.
So, when does this book come out? Right?
May 9th.
May 9th.
May 9th. It has a 9 in it. That makes it good.
Yeah. So, but the reason I bring this up is because they offered to do a giveaway with RPPR. So basically, I'm going to do a little contest, and this is sort of a first for RPPR, so we're going to see how this goes. Basically, if you want to tweet at us, or at me, because I'm the only one here on Twitter.
I have a Twitter.
I have a Twitter.
Somewhere.
You don't have a Twitter. You've never mentioned it to me. You've never.
I have one. I can go to it right now, Ross.
Okay. All right. Well.
You want to go to it right now? I will go to it right now.
You literally never brought this up before.
Yeah, because I almost never use it.
Okay.
I got it for something specific.
Okay. So.
Yeah, I had a Twitter account for a grand total of once to pester one of my friends, and then I never saw the point.
So you basically don't have a Twitter. You're just.
And I got mine.
It exists.
And
you technically have.
And I got mine for a furry thing, so you be quiet.
Okay. So I'm the only one with an actual Twitter account.
That you use.
An actual Twitter account?
There's actually
his is real.
Yeah, because I actually use it.
As real
so
as
at Ross Payton,
data on the internet can be.
that I actually look at people who tweet at me and that kind of thing, and reply to people who are doing that. And so basically, yeah. So you can either post in the comments. Or so to get to the rules of the contest, if you post in the comments of this episode on our website or hashtag D&D RPPR character sheet with your favorite D&D character sheet, take a photo of it, scan it, whatever you want to do of your favorite D&D character sheet. I will pick the top 5 character sheets that I get, and I'll also take variants too. Any D&D. Ish game, that can trace its bloodline back to the Paragon.
Bosses and offices.
Yeah. No, that's a little too far.
It's not far enough.
It's not far enough. I will select 5 by May 10th. And yeah,
that's 10.
And I will get you guys the top 5 people get a copy of Rise of the Dungeon Master. So
Top 5.
Top 5.
Top 5.
It's not the same.
So to summarize, the hashtag is D&D RPPR character sheet, or post the link to the image, or post the image here on the show notes on RPPR. I'll pick the top 5 on May 10th, and then we'll ship those out to you. Or Nation Books, actually.
And then you must pick a door. Door number 1, door number 2, or door number 9.
This is not a Monty Hall problem.
Where do the other doors go?
Yeah.
You don't want to know.
This is literally not a Monty Hall problem, which is a whole math
It's always a Monty Hall problem,
No,
Ross.
it's not.
Yes, it is.
Do you even know what the Monty Hall problem is?
I have clues.
All right. Well, you do. I can't disagree with that. So we should probably maybe get to the real topic.
Why don't we?
Wait, there's a topic?
There is a topic.
About things here?
Yeah.
Gate 9?
No.
Okay.
It's not. We will do the post.
Oh, the other thing. I got you.
Yeah, the topic for this episode. So published adventures. I've been running a lot of them lately because...
More than somewhat, yeah.
More than somewhat. Because Delta Green has a plethora of them. In fact, they have some of the best written published scenarios of any RPG that I've ever read. And...
you know how much I hate to agree with you.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah,
the Delta Green published ones are pretty awesome.
They are amazing, and I wanted to get them all down. And Arcdream actually did sponsor these episodes because they wanted people to hear what they were like. And so, hey, we worked together and we got those out. So, Working Group Icarus was just a framing device to get from one published scenario to the other without just recreating new characters each time. But this got me thinking about published scenarios, what I like, what I don't like about them, and we could just have a big old discussion about published adventures. So we should probably get started with we'll just go sort of in order, with the first one we did, which was Kali Ghati, which, was set in Afghanistan and is essentially the meat grinder combat focused scenario of them by far.
We got into some shit.
Yeah. Now this
was not there.
Yeah. Basically, a group of military guys go out to find a missing soldier, and guess what? The missing soldier got up into some bad mythos things.
What?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in Delta.
It does happen in Delta.
And we had to terminate his command.
Well, spoilers.
Come on.
This was like what, 2 months ago?
I posted it months ago, so it's more than 2 months ago. I think I posted it last year, so 4 months ago.
So no, I'm spoiling this shit. Turns out, I was surprised. He was selling stuff to them.
Makes you feel better, Ross. You can put a spoilers tag.
He was selling magazines to the insurgents.
No, that actually wasn't. Do you remember that at all? No? All right.
My memory, I don't remember much from that time, Ross.
Okay. So
it's distressing.
It's it's obviously the most straightforward of all of the Delta Green scenarios.
Go here and do mission.
Now, my takeaway from this is that when you're reading or thinking about running a published scenario, consider each scenario that is published, that is written, is designed with a specific goal. The author has a goal in mind. And it's not the goal of it's not the plot of the scenario. It's like, what does the author want to achieve in the scenario? Like, what kind of game does he want to have the group to have? And in this case, Kali Ghati, and I know this because I actually know, Shane Ivey wrote this. And he wrote this to playtest the combat rules for Delta Green. So guess what? It's a very combat-focused scenario.
We did fire a few shots.
There were more than a few shots. And it was also done to test things like explosives, lethality rules, not quite mass combat, but between multiple combatants, and that kind of thing. And so when you're running, if you were... Basically, my takeaway is not every scenario may be good or may be great, but if it's not the kind of experience you want, you have to be willing to step away from it. So if I was wanting to run Kali Ghati, but I didn't want a combat scenario,
I would.
That's kind of impossible. I mean, a scenario cannot be all things to all people.
Let's talk our way out of it.
Yeah, but it's better, I think, because it knows what it wants to be and just sets out to do that. Some scenarios, the badly written ones. You see this in a lot of the third-party D&D kind of knockoff adventures that try and be a little bit everything to everyone. Like, there's a dungeon crawl, but there's also mystery and intrigue, and there's role-playing, and there's a little bit of this, and there's a little bit of that. And in my experience, the best scenarios are the ones that have a very focused goal in mind, the focused experience, and they set out to do that, and they don't try to be everything to everyone. So, I don't know. Thoughts, Dan?
Well, I was going to say that, would you say that if Kali Ghati was on Twitter, it would have #shotsfired?
Yes.
See, I know Twitter things, Ross.
Hashtag.
You can know Twitter things. I'm just talking about you being on Twitter.
No, or would that be hashtag condition 1?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of your experience or published scenarios, I mean, disagree? I mean,
I guess I think I was trying to. Did one recently, a D&D module scenario that.
Yeah. Do you remember the name?
No, because he didn't tell us. The GM didn't tell us because he didn't want us to research it.
Okay.
But I think it was.
What group was this?
Oh, this was This was the other group. The same one that did the GURPS after the bomb game.
Oh, online. Mm-hmm. Okay.
No, not online. We were at my house.
Oh,
that group.
This is like with Greg and some of the other. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I could see that being.
I was going to say, like, because I thoroughly didn't enjoy that one, but that was really because it was the kind of scenario that it was straight up. Well, if he had told us that it's going to be straight up combat, there's nothing to talk to here. It's just nothing but traps and monsters.
Is that so? He did not say that beforehand?
He did not say that.
Okay.
I think maybe if he had said that. Well, I think if he had said that, like, do we really have to do this one? Because that sounds boring as shit.
Okay.
Because I'm sorry, combat, dynamic combat, like in, like...
Well, Kali Ghati is different, I think, than D&D. I mean, Delta Green combat is designed to be different because it's quicker. Like, characters have fewer... Like, they get taken out of combat quicker. Only a few attacks are enough to kill a character.
Yeah, this was like very...
At most.
Well, this was very crunchy, numbers-oriented D&D
What level
combat.
were your characters?
10.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
was it D&D or was it Pathfinder?
It was D&D.
5th ed or 3rd ed? Because I know it's not going to be 4th ed.
No, you know what? No, we were using Pathfinder.
Okay.
That's right. And it was just... It's one of those, like, it's rolling an egg combat.
Right.
And, I mean, the setting was pretty good, but... It was, it was a partially submerged temple.
Yeah.
And thank Christ some of us had some magic to help us breathe and or walk on water, or it would have actually been over very quickly. But I really do think, tell us what we're going to do so we can plan accordingly.
Yeah.
Right. But no, this one was just, it was exactly what it said it was going to be.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Mismatching between PCs and the scenario.
Yeah, so,
in Kali Ghati, there are pregens that come with it, and they're all military guys. So
again, Sean and I were playing, and we couldn't do that. We have to. It can't just be straight up crunchy combat. We've got to have some kind of interaction with things. So we designed our characters to talk to each other all the time, but it was one of those like, I'm running out of snark.
Yeah.
I don't think I can keep doing this, and it kind of taught me that First of all, if you're going to run a published scenario, tell people about it. Give them
what they can expect from
what they can expect.
Yeah,
because we were just, oh God, and then we were told, all right, so we go through 2 kind of grueling sessions of it.
Yeah.
Just grind. It's more grindy than an MMO. He's just okay. Well, we're about a third of the way through. We're like, no, we cannot do 4 more sessions of this. No, we finally said, look, no. We can't do. We are literally running on empty here. He mercifully ended it the next session.
So yeah, that's a good point.
That might also be a larger commentary about knowing your players and knowing what systems that everyone's comfortable with. Because if I were to one day run a straight up Pathfinder game, you and Sean would not be high on my list of people that would want to be in that game. Not because I don't like you guys as players, because you're both fantastic, but I don't see you fitting well with Pathfinder.
Well, no, the thing is, we're fine with some combat, as long as there's something else, too, occasionally. That's all this was. We go from... I'm sorry. Well, no, sorry. We go from fight to fight, occasionally with a break to search every square inch of a room for traps...
Yeah.
And that is... Sean was the thief, and at that point he was just rolling it.
Yeah.
He didn't even look at what he rolled eventually.
Yeah.
But no, I've played games with you. Yes, you run combat exactly like it should be run, but there's also other things. There's characters with personality we can talk to, and dinner parties we could go to. You love that shit too as much as I do.
Yeah, and I would, even if it weren't in a... Yeah, anyway.
But no, this definitely. That's what I took away from that. Know the scenario you're going to do first.
Sure. And match the scenario, publish scenario with your players. So the next scenario is Last Things Last, which is in Delta Green Need to Know.
Yeah.
Was that the septic tank?
That was septic tank.
That was the septic tank. Okay, not saying another word.
My biggest thing was that it were 2 things. One, out of all the scenarios, it was the shortest. In terms of the material. I mean, Sweetness might be fewer pages, but there was more of a plot there. And the other thing is, I mean, it's almost more of one encounter than a full scenario.
And it's possible if everyone rolls well, nothing goes wrong, and you just do.
If you make the right decisions, as written, it is basically you do the right thing. All right, you killed the monster. Yeah.
But the point of that scenario I got from the player side is that it's supposed to breed player dissension. Like you're
Well, the thing is, it's also Last Things Last is meant to be an intro, a starter scenario, and it is best used with people who are not intimately familiar with the we'll say tropes of Delta Green.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that what to do with the monster should be a sticking. Like, if I think that's part of the thing is like, it's shorter because there's so much potential for the PCs to just break down and have a standoff against each other about how to deal with the monster.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, guns could be drawn on each other.
Yeah. I exacerbated things in order to draw that out.
What? Really? Yeah. Ross did that?
If I had not done that, then it would have been,
Well, because we all have played enough with you and any Mythos-style game that we were like, oh, yep, that's the monster. Kill it dead.
There's a book. Go read it.
So, I feel out of all the scenarios, I think that's the weakest simply because it is... it has a thing.
Intro. It's an intro.
It can be. Well, it's not that it's an intro. That it can be easily and perfectly solved without any, unless you add material to it. Now, that's the thing. Is also, I think the other lesson is the biggest is that if you see a deficiency in scenario, you should feel free to modify how you want to run that scenario in order to make it better for your group. So. If you know, for example, your players are really into dinner parties and you can think of a good way to fit a dinner party into a game, add a dinner party.
No. As I said, Dan, I would totally play a Pathfinder game with you.
Yeah.
Good luck getting me to run one.
Oh, no, that's that. But, okay, any kind of fantasy, D20-ish fantasy type game.
We do have a thing to review for Pathfinder today.
You quiet.
Anyways.
You don't want me to do it, Ross.
I'm not.
Because I've already spoken my piece on it before we started recording.
I just got I will mention the book, Pathfinder book, but I just got it in the mail today, so we will talk about it in a future episode in more detail, so I can actually read the thing.
I promise to be salty about it then too.
Well,
you can't deny the art's amazing.
The art's amazing.
No one will refute that.
Bestiary 6, by the way. But anyways, back to Last Things Last. If you go online, you can read a lot of discussion of people who have also run Last Things Last, and they talk about some of the things they do to modify the scenario. Be like, what if the monster could possess the corpse of a nearby dead animal because it's in a wilderness, so maybe there's a dead dog or a dead deer or something like that, and then so go Evil Dead 2 essentially on it. Well, I mean, that for different groups, I could see that working.
Or trees.
Or maybe there is a normal person there, and there you have to deal with a potential witness without.
That would be more interesting.
Yeah. So when you feel like that's the thing is published scenarios obviously are not perfect even though they're published. I know this is shocking, but feel free to make them your own. So that was my thing with Last Things Last. It was at that moment of decision, I just looked for any weakness, in which case it was a disorder, I think, on Sean's character's part. But I think some other people too, and just like, this person is clearly alive and not a monster, so you should stop the other people from, destroying them.
It's like, no, we have to do our job. Then pulls the gun. No, I think we should really, should really try to help this person out. Or I can kill you.
Yeah.
Just bang, bang.
Yeah. So, but even with that only added probably 20, 30 minutes of the scenario.
But that was enough.
Yeah, it was enough to have a full game out of. The other thing, another thing would be to take that and make that the opening act of another scenario. Yeah. Take another thing and just, it's easy to Frankenstein these things together.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that scenario that doesn't get resolved by the end of it that is a jumping point for pretty much any, about 5 or 6 different directions that you would want to take a working group through.
Yeah. So I feel, so that was my lesson with Last Things Last, or the takeaway from it. And also, if you're just running Last Things Last, it is a very short thing. I mean, it's perfect for cons and demos of here's how the mechanics of Delta Green works. And if you want to run a sub 2-hour game, that's perfect. Because it's you go to the thing, it's kind of creepy, and you either made a stupid decision and you all died, or you made the right decision and you all feel weird because, the screams will haunt your nightmares forever. But hey!
But hey, welcome to Delta Green.
Welcome to Delta Green.
That's going to be the most mild thing that'll happen to you.
No one retires.
Well, no one uses the retirement package. People get retired.
So let's see here.
Sometimes it's just the double dose of lead behind the ear.
The 9mm retirement.
Yeah.
So
it's never going to be Boca Raton.
Next up was Sweetness, which is a Dennis Detwiller one, I believe.
Which was probably my favorite.
Yeah. Sweetness is also the one I most heavily modified because another thing you can do, this is not a formally published scenario in that it's a nice thing you can buy at DriveThruRPG. It's on Dennis Detwiller's Patreon, and he has it as essentially a 5-page PDF, plain text PDF. There's no art. There's just like, here's the thing. And I sent him detailed notes on after I ran. It's like, what? I had questions, and I emailed him like, "Hey, what's this? What's this mean? What this?" And he sent me like, that's the first thing is one. RPG scenario writers are usually really easy to get a hold of. So if you have a question, just email or tweet at them or whatever.
You're saying that they're happy to talk about their creations?
Yeah.
Wow.
That they're like projects of love and passion, and that they're excited that other people are interested in it.
Yeah.
What kind of hobby is this, Peyton?
You've changed, Hollywood.
Even if you can't get a hold of the scenario writer, for example, if it's a really old one, or
like,
something
go
like
to the RPG.net forums. Like, has anyone heard of this?
Yeah. Or
has anyone heard of Tomb of Horrors?
Something Awful as a trad game forum. Ian World, obviously. There's a lot of RPG messages.
You have choices.
You have choices. So Google that up. You can probably find it. So get help if you need help.
The internet is not just for porn, guys.
Or cat pictures. And cat pictures.
Yeah. Well, he just said porn. Oh, anyways.
Was that directed at me?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ross.
I was actually double entendre because,
Well, that was a multiple entendre.
Yeah, it was a multiple entendre.
Triple entendre?
So...
all the entendre.
The other thing is obviously, feel free... I also modified it as written several times. Partially from the feedback I got from Dennis, and partially just for what I wanted to do for the scenario. And I actually ran it again for the Patreon, and it had different results. Because for one thing, the players, that's one of the other takeaways. It's fun running the same scenario more than once with different groups because they can go so differently. It's really cool. If you're a GM and you get a chance to do that, I highly recommend getting to run the same scenario for multiple groups and see how they react.
That was probably the one positive experience I had when I ran White Forest 4 times at Gen Con.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah.
That was your scenario, though.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah. Maybe one day I'll get around to bundling it with some other scenarios and trying to get them published, but...
You could just do one scenario at a time. I mean, like a direct PDF thing would be fine.
Yeah.
So, something to think about. But anyways, go on.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. Is that you never really get around to using 100% of the material in the 100% exact way every time, because that's one of the wonders of role-playing, is the fact that you have a bunch of different personalities that are sleeving into another set of personalities, and then trying to interface with this world that you're making, come alive, and you're not gonna hit the exact same thing twice ever.
Yeah. One of the things,
and if you are hitting the exact same thing multiple times, you probably need to reevaluate how you run games.
It should be a sort of chaotic, non-linear experience.
Actually, that reminds me of like a pitfall I've seen some people do running published games, particularly.
Yeah.
Is they feel they have to use 100% of everything in that scenario.
That's true.
And at that point, that almost becomes like an on-rails shooter. Like no, we have to go to this spot next. Like, why? Like, why would
because reasons, Tom.
Because reasons.
Because it's number 5 on the list, Tom.
Respect the list,
Tom. It comes after 4.
Yeah.
There are monsters.
But you know what comes before 10?
You're going to start in the top left of the town and work your way to the bottom right, and you're just going to hit every single number on there.
But what comes after 8?
Yeah. 11. Anyways, no, actually,
it does come after that, but before 10.
There were a couple of numbers where there were a couple of things. Yeah,
that is true.
For example, in Sweetness, when you guys played it, the way I had read the scenario, it seemed basically the best way to find out that there was something, supernatural and evil going on was to stake out the house and watch it at night. And I just assumed you guys were going to do that. But you didn't.
Nope.
We did not.
Even I thought I was hinting quite strongly that, but I didn't want to outright make you do it. Like say, oh, you should stake the place out. I didn't want to say it. And you guys never did it. So
then how would Shinchenko try to hide his borderline alcoholism or borderline personality disorder and alcoholism in front of a wealthy family? Yeah.
That's true. So I had to come up with other ways to get you onto because the way the scenario is written is there's a very narrow there aren't many ways to actually find out what's going on. There's only so many things. I actually added a couple of things in there, like the child's drawing. I think I put that in your run of it. So that was another addition. Again, feel free to add stuff. I also added the stuff, the forensic stuff about the goo used to write the symbol on there, and the missing animals. That was my addition to the scenario. That's not in the published notes, but it seemed pretty apparent. If you remember that I wasn't clear where the fire was set, that was because that's not in the public. Because again, it's a rough draft of the scenario. But the second group, the people I ran for the Patriot, they're like, oh yeah, we should stake the place out at night and see what happens. And I was like, oh great, horrible things. And they see the shadow creature, and then they're like, oh well, let's get our guns out and go deal with that. Well, that didn't turn out great for them.
What are you saying? Shadow creatures don't react well to bullets?
Yeah. They also, both groups did manage to get up to Chicago to find the perpetrator. You guys just showed up at the perp's apartment, and you guys kind of saw what happened. They basically tried to meet her. They actually arranged to meet with her, and like, oh, you're former Delta Green. We need some information on a case you worked. You're like, oh yeah, I trust you. And she basically set up a bomb in a house that they were supposed to meet at and blew them up because she's not all right in the head. And so, it was great.
Well, she went a little funny in the head.
Well, yeah.
That's why the retirement plan for Delta Green is a 9mm.
So, I added some other material to it. So, that's the thing is, one thing is also that the main thing from Sweetness is you're not going to be able to, the author isn't going to be able to anticipate every single angle. And so you have to be ready to fill in the blanks because your players are going to go on some place that the author hasn't quite figured out. They're going to go in some marked area, like, oh, what about these dead animals, or what about this thing? And
you're not supposed to go over there like there's no fence.
Yeah,
can't say we can't.
It's like in a video game where you're in a building and there's a hallway, but there's like a couch or a box blocking the way, and you in real life you'd be able to step over the box, but it's like there's an invisible wall around the box.
What kind of box is this?
Yeah, exactly. You need to be
box full of unobtainium.
Yeah, and so in video games they just have these invisible walls because they can't make the level as big as the real world. They have limit, but in the RPG, you should be able to go anywhere and do anything.
Someone hasn't played enough Skyrim.
Well, even in Skyrim, there's invisible walls.
You're an invisible wall.
Okay, all right, fair.
Mega burn!
Yeah,
fist bump.
Bam. So you need to be able to fill in those. You need to have as few invisible walls as possible.
And I smell burning Peyton.
Yep,
because he was burned.
Yep. Next up, speaking of burned, Star Chamber, because
was not in that one.
You were not in that one. Tom, you were.
Fuck that one.
Oh, really?
No, it's not because I don't like it. It's because of what we had to do.
Really? Please explain.
Well, you know what we do a lot. The whole murder hobo thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's great about that? Usually with the whole murder hobo thing, there's very few consequences for our actions.
Okay.
Or what we're killing is orcs or, exurgents.
Sure.
Which are like, oh, we can massacre them. Shoot. This is one where we're literally deciding the fates of another team who may or may not be lying or telling us the truth or crazy. And we know that they're leaving it up to us to decide whether they live or die.
Yeah.
And we can't say, that one's inconclusive.
Yeah.
No, it has to be a yay or nay.
You have to decide, yeah.
Where over here...
Who lives, who dies.
Yeah, over here we have may actually be compromised and a threat to humanity. Over here we have, if we're wrong, we're shooting a fellow agent in the face.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, when that's the entire... when that's not just, a moment that can happen, but literally the purpose of the entire campaign, it's like...
Really? So you were really, this was really intense for you, it sounds like.
My character's notwithstanding, I'm a pretty empathetic guy.
Yeah.
And I was feeling it.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I was like, I don't want to, that's why I could never be a spy.
Okay. So it really
never,
made some angst for you.
Yeah, I could never make those kind of decisions.
Wow.
I'm like, can you just please be an orc?
Please, shades of gray. No, I want.
Which is
black
actually
and
why
white.
to me, the best war movies are
Yeah.
never, or it's not Lord of the Rings, where, we can slaughter hundreds of them and not worry.
Yeah.
It's, oh God, I'm killing a person.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe he was trying to kill me, but he's suffering in pain if I just wound him.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
If I wound him in this jungle, what fate have I conscribed him to?
So one thing is, Star Chamber was a very challenging scenario for me to run. It's long. It's like 36 pages. And I read it several times to make sure I got it right.
Yeah, and it's one of the few games I got distinctly uncomfortable. Not because I'm not liking the campaign. It's I'm uncomfortable with what I have to do.
Okay.
There's a difference,
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is basically for me. Every time we run Delta Green, I'm going to have. I mean, another campaign. There's going to be another Star Chamber.
Sure. Yeah.
You're basically
Which
saying
is actually
we need more.
Which is why, when we did the next one, we got back to a monster. Like, oh, thank God.
Or Ross is just going to let Caleb know what's going on. He's like, hey, have a Star Chamber event in your next campaign for Tom.
Oh God, yes. You need more Star Chambers, like all the time. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's probably what you're getting from me. No, but I'm saying that's why it worked. At the same time, I wanted to see this through, but it was those decisions you really actually have to think about.
Yeah. Now, the Star Chamber is written by Greg Stolze, who is...
That explains a lot.
That explains a lot. He's also the guy who wrote Unknown Armies, legendary game designer. So that's one of the things I want to bring up is, one, published scenarios, the best ones, if you are worth the effort. Like, they're so worth the effort. Because I could have come up with something like this on my own, but why replicate efforts when, Greg Stolze, he would do it better than me anyway.
It's like, excuse me, sir, could you make a scenario to destroy my soul? Like, yes, I can.
Stolze would be like, what are you talking about? I've got 6 right here, and Detwiller's got a dozen more in his chamber.
Yeah, people always talk about Dennis Detwiller's scenarios being nihilistic, but again, Greg Stolze wrote Star Chamber. He could crush it. Ooh, man. There are actually some of the Unknown Army scenarios.
Yeah, dude, you can just bound in hey, Mr. Stolze, I'm feeling too happy. Can you help? Like, have a seat, son. Let me see what I can do for you. You want to kill yourself yet? Yes, sir, I do. Thank you.
So, that's the biggest takeaway from Star Chamber is that it's worth the effort to go above and beyond and do these sort of unusual premise, non-standard premise.
Because Delta Green, it's all well and good to investigate the supernatural, but there's also the unlovely spy stuff you have to do.
So Dan, sorry.
I was just going to say, it's like, that's... No, I lost it. Whatever.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Tom.
Jesus.
I am a monster. That's what that game did to me. It made me a monster. In addition, Ross did too, but...
So... the other thing is, obviously, when you're running a scenario like that, as complex as Star Chamber, you do your homework ahead of time.
That was the comment.
That's a scenario you don't want to sputter in.
Yeah.
Because I was reading, I haven't listened to that scenario, but I was reading the comments, and the comments consensus was it felt like that there was some kind of disjointment, especially as listening to it, I guess. And I don't know, that feels like a scenario I'd want to run 4 or 5 times just to get comfortable with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is I don't have 4 or 5 other... I mean, we have a great group here at RPPR, but I can't just run the same scenario for the same players over and over.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, I think that's the one weakness of that scenario is that if you're not used to running it in that structure, it's going to feel awkward and it may not pay off as well as you thought it might.
That's there is the expectation games. So... It is. I mean, a challenge. I think it's worth going above and beyond. Maybe not all the time, but and you'll get better.
It was definitely worth it.
Yeah. I will be running a Observer Effect is also similarly complex, and I'll be running that at Gen Con for Arc Dream. I might run it for Patreons at some point, or in Star Chamber as well. I might set up my own Star Chamber. Might just have another case, same premise, alternate. I mean, that's the thing is it's an entirely different structure of a scenario.
Yeah.
So you could come up with different cases for it. So
you could have that be an entire campaign of just star chamber after star chamber after star
That
chamber.
would eventually.
I think that would lose its novelty. You would have to have some variation, but I think a couple of
Okay,
them.
yeah, I do think if it's
Like
nothing,
maybe every other maybe every third or fourth.
if it's
scenario
nothing about
system.
that, I would eventually just. Oh, we have to decide someone's fate today. All right, let's get
Yeah.
to this.
Like a lot of people that work in that type of job.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm pretty sure those are why they stay. That's why the experts in that field are truly terrifying, because they've gotten to the point where like they can decide someone's fate without batting an eye. They're terrible people.
No, whoa! Just the entire legal profession just gets slammed.
I know. The ones that could decide to kill someone without thinking about it.
Well, I mean, outside of soldiers in the battlefield, that's pretty much judges and
Insert
juries.
random political comment here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not really how the judicial system works here. You know, there's a whole lot of checks and balances about killing people.
I just love killing.
All right, fair enough.
Anyway,
So, Dan, you wanted to talk about Night of Disillusion, right? At some point.
at some point, but yeah,
Okay, let's get Delta Green done. All right. So the next one we did was Future Perfect, part 1. Actually, there's actually 3 parts total, which could be a whole mini campaign. And I'd actually run Future Perfect Part 1 years and years and years ago, actually, even before I did RPPR, like 2006, something like that. But they revised it for the new Delta Green edition. Like, they revised the stats of the characters and whatnot. And so I ran for you guys. First off, you guys have any thoughts on it? Death Valley, were you in that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Was that the one with the totally not dinosaur?
Yeah, he was a dinosaur.
Well,
you got to hunt a dinosaur.
I tried to
hunt a dinosaur, but we didn't see each other.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes, that part of the scenario did make me smile. Where I'm like, come on,
You're both trying to clever girl each other.
yeah, and I imagine the dinosaur's like, come on, you tasty morsel, and then both of us at the same time, fuck,
Yeah.
just forget it.
You're like
Yeah.
two ships passing in the night who had also never met.
Yeah. So
I honestly, that's all I remember. The water,
yeah.
and I remember the.
It's a pretty standard like go here investigate thing.
Mm-hmm. I did love the and you're here, totally dry now. Yeah, like how did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, I was adding elements.
No, I also think that was that the one where I think Sean's character
Killed everyone again.
I think that's when he told me like, listen, if I ever really start, if you ever see me going, I want you to be able to kill me. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. But you didn't.
Well, he hadn't gone that far yet, as far as I knew.
As far as you knew. I was adding.
Well, yeah, if the dead could talk, I would have ganked him right there.
Yeah,
But
I was adding elements because I'd read ahead for Observer Effect, and I kind of figured that like I had worked in my own twist to Observer Effect. That obviously Sean's character is being manipulated.
Yeah. And actually, I got a little disappointed in that one because it's like it seems like a scenario where a bunch of military training could really do good, and I didn't get to do much with it.
Yeah,
that's just not how it panned out.
Probably what parts 2 and 3 are for.
Parts 2 and 3 are actually could be standalone. Like they have a plot hook. Like you investigate an element from part 1. Like you investigate the old technology company. Yeah. And that leads to that, and then in part 3, a plot, and that's part 2. In part 3, you investigate another lead that you get from part 2. So the stories are all connected, but you could run any one of them independent of the other. So the story is basically standalone. So for me, it's one there's like a lot of these investigation scenarios in Delta Green is that there's a very narrow chain of clues that could lead to a resolution. It's and a lot of them are missable. You could just not figure out what's going on at all. And just
that's pretty much what happened in that one a lot.
Which is fine.
Yeah,
you don't always like.
You actually did find the time portal, and
sometimes mercifully you don't figure things out.
I did. The time portal was a death trap. I did. I don't remember. I don't think I altered probability for that, but I was kind of like, yeah.
No, what you did was you let Sean translate it, and you gave, and everybody at that point was implicitly trusting him.
Yeah. So, you can kind of edge things along if you want a certain path, but let things go the way they should. It's an interesting scenario, but it's kind of a kind of the run of the mill for a Delta Green scenario. I felt, kind of like a middle, like if it was a TV show, this would be like a middle of the season kind of episode. And that takes us to the season finale, the campaign finale, Observer Effect. And that is, as written, pretty much a campaign ender. Even if you did not have Sean's character going off the deep end, it's written to be very easily TPK.
Which I believe is what happened.
Yeah. And so again, this is knowing what your scenario is before you head in. Don't run. So that's why I ran it at the end.
Yeah, no, that worked just fine.
Yeah.
I will say, though, the structure of that gave me plenty of opportunity for catharsis, Ross, and I appreciate that.
And again, it has an unusual scenario structure. And you certainly wouldn't want to, the novelty of that scenario, you would not want to replicate multiple times. But it's one of those challenging scenarios that is, I think, worth the effort of reading through and understanding. And basically, what I do when I find a scenario like that and I want to run it is that I read through it multiple times and kind of sort of mentally rehearse, like, okay, from here to here, this is how this is going to go. This is probably how this is going to happen. And then I just kind of sort of just prepare myself, So it takes as much effort as writing a scenario on my own, really. And but yeah. So
well, that scenario as written is structured to adapt.
Yeah.
Your players will adapt to the information that you give them and will run it in a completely different way and really
still die.
Yeah. And that's a challenge from my end, is that I have to be ready for it. I don't know how exactly this adaptation is going to go.
What are you saying? We keep you on your toes?
Yeah. And again, Delta Green is designed to be it's not certain investigations. It's practically impossible to miss the thing, but Delta Green, it's designed from the start to be like this. There's one chain of events that you could follow to resolve a scenario. If you don't follow that exact chain of events, it's basically very hard or impossible to
save the world,
solve the mystery. Well, or maybe not save the world, but at least find out what's killing people,
or postpone the inevitable.
Postpone the inevitable, essentially. So
I rolled my eyes at that, but for entirely other reasons.
That's fair.
We're just trying to move the goalposts a little bit.
Yeah. So. Delta Green has a high standard of writing for scenarios. I felt out of all of them, probably Future Perfect 1 was the weakest. But that's, more because Star Chamber is so great, and Sweetness, as, with a few modifications. I mean, Sweetness is probably going to be rewritten, revised, and published as a full
But it's really good. It's very solid. It gives... one of the things that tends to get missed in Delta Green that traditional Call of Cthulhu or Trail of Cthulhu tends to hit on is the human aspect of how the mythos impacts people in their everyday lives. And Sweetness did a really good job of bringing that home.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point. I mean, you can these are both written by Detweller, but Future Perfect was written, 2005, 2006, and Sweetness was written by him last year. So you can see how his own Future Perfect is just a series of events that are random or seeming. They have a chain of events, but there's no emotional resonance to them. It's just bad things happening to people. And in Sweetness, the action is driven by humans who are desperate and trying to get some sort of emotional need met, and guess what? They find the mythos, and it basically blows up in their face.
Well, it meets that need, but at what cost?
Yeah,
surprise mythos.
Which as our society gets closer and closer to understanding substance abuse, that hits home really hard for a lot of people that have struggled with that.
Yeah.
Is that this thing that is meeting my need is slowly destroying me, but that's okay because I'm getting my needs met.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a really good point. So, so when you're looking for a scenario to run, so taking it outside of Delta Green, if you can find, for example, a D&D type adventure, dungeon crawl adventure, if you can find one where it's not like the bad guys are in a temple, go kill them. It's like the bad guy is trying to do something, resurrect his dead wife, or he's trying to get revenge on someone who wronged him, and that person who wronged him, and you're his friend, so you're trying to protect your friend from being killed, but you find out your friend was a bastard, when he was younger or something like that. That's suddenly a lot more interesting than just bad guy's doing a bad thing, we should stop him. So that can kind of inform And sometimes you can take a published scenario and just add that kind of emotional resonance by like taking bad guy doing a bad thing. Well, let's give him a new motive, because that doesn't change how the dungeon is laid out. It just changes why he's doing it.
Or it's going to change your mindset when you go in.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe like, well, my friend wronged you, but he's still my friend.
Or then going, we have to kill this person. I mean, there's no other option.
Yeah,
they have to die.
So
could we torture them first? I would love to do that.
So yeah, again, I think the biggest thing, my takeaway from all these, is feel free to make these published scenarios are not 100% complete. Everything needs some customization,
and they're not a contract. You don't have to do everything.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, speaking of D&D type adventures, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, my experience with pre-published scenarios my largest experience with it was probably way back in the day before we recorded things.
Yeah.
And I ran Tolis, and I ran Night of Dissolution in the setting. And I know people get tired of me talking about Tolis, but it's a really well-structured book. I don't care what you say about having city demographics and detailed information.
Well, yeah.
No, urban adventures are good.
That's when you're wanting to have an urban adventure and you didn't design the city yourself, having that in the back of your mind helps bring it to life.
Yeah.
Anyway, the adventure is for 4th to 9th level, and there's another adventure, Enter the Bane Warrens, that's not set necessarily in Tolis proper. It could easily be set anywhere else with some modifications, and it actually says that. And there's actually a recommendation that you could weave the two adventures together and make a super adventure and expand the campaign and up the difficulty curve, etc., etc. And I've tried to run through it twice. Once with mostly the RPPR crew, and I did some things, and I fell into the trap of run everything, hit every point in the book, use 100% of the material. And that worked, but that was also because everyone was like, "Oh, we're here for a D&D dungeon crawl."
I remember you told us.
Yeah. This is going to be a dungeon crawl.
That almost rhymes. You told us about Tolis.
Yeah.
Hey-o.
What?
The second time I ran it was pretty. Spoiler alert for those of you that were doing the Patreon game, the Patreon backers game that I was running. That's what I was doing. I was running it a second time, but this time I was taking a lot of liberties with it because 1, I'd already run it once before, so I was very familiar with it, and 2, I realized that there were some things that I didn't need to keep. I could cut things pretty well at whim, but the problem I had with that adventure both times is that 2 of the adventures linchpin on a morality pet, and you have to sell the morality pet. And I have yet to make that work because eventually I just had to tell the players, you just care about this kid, okay?
I'm sorry, we're murder hobos. I don't know if I'm capable of that.
No, the thing is, you have to figure the problem with that scenario is you're forcing a particular morality pet.
Right.
Players do get morality pets, but everyone has their own. If it was like a robot, and Aaron would have killed 1,000 people for it. If it was a tiny monster or a ghoul, Tom would have been feeding him orphans.
And if Caleb was in that game, I would just replace the kid with Fupa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, feline undead parliament. You'd be like, I will kill anybody in the universe for this. Yeah, exactly. So
we all have our things.
So if you don't have that freedom to manipulate it to what you want it to be, then that
and at the time I just couldn't figure out something to replace it with that would make sense.
Yeah,
because one of the scenarios is the kid helped you out and you expose cultists, and they're like, well, this is a burned asset, but let's take him and Cthulhu tech the shit out of him into a monster.
Yeah.
And you have to want to go save him because part of the meta plot is also there.
Can we save him after he becomes a cool monster? That would be awesome.
Can we do that? Mr.
I will
GM,
say,
sir?
though, as far as morality pets go, and now that I'm thinking about it, I should have done it. Both of those parties, when they ran through the first adventure, Pathana's house, everyone saves the cobbled man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I just did a really great job of making him a sad, tragic creature, and everyone's like, "Aw."
Yeah. See, there you go. Yeah, make it. Yeah.
It's like if somebody had broke into your base and stole the cobbled man for that one adventure, you guys would be like, oh, hell no, we're going to burn this whole city to the ground till we find him.
Yeah.
No, dude, yeah, it's like, you're like, I don't know why, but yeah, it's like you with the lieutenant. We just latched onto the little guy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. It's like, hi, Ross, yeah, you have to do him forever now.
Yeah.
If you kill him, we will never forgive you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just a GMing thing where you just have to figure out what your the emotional levers of your player.
And if you know your group, you can play those like a piano.
That's not So and again, publishing errors obviously can't
anticipate that.
It can't anticipate that. So you kind of have to modify things. But
if you want to take the more fast and loose approach, like we'll go into the next published scenario.
I mean, some of the advantages of published scenarios again are like things like Star Chamber, where they have time and multiple people looking at them, to where like you have two sets of characters, you have all these handouts, and so you have this and there are all these connections between these various. Because in Star Chamber, you not only role play as the judges, you role play as the people who are being investigated.
My guy was dead.
And you do flashbacks to show what happened, at least in certain versions of the story. And there are all these complexities within them because they've had writers and editors looking at this and, thinking back on this that you're not going to do by yourself as a informal scenario that you just write a note. So that's the strength. And in D&D games, like with Night of Dissolution, you have these nice maps, you have everything.
It does a lot of the work for
you. Have all these statted out things, and they can have like, oh, you see this guy's a little bad guy, but he's figured out this cool trick he can do with this spell in this room. He added, he threw some oil down, and so he'll cast Flaming Sphere and set the whole room on fire. And then he'll close the doors, and that'll suck all the oxygen out of the room, or something like that. And so it's like, there are all these clever things that...
Make note of that for the 13th Age campaign.
So yeah, exactly. And as when you're home writing, you're just not spending as much time on that kind of stuff. Like you might think of one or two of those things, but they're just adding more and more stuff. And of course, the other thing is you can always mine published scenarios for certain elements. Like again, that one encounter, you could plop it into your, what one cave you're thinking of. Now, Delta Green, that's harder to do, obviously, because they're all like here. Like you can't just throw in.
You can't wedge another block into that pyramid.
Now, you can do it at the beginning and the end. Like Last Things Last, I think, is more modular than others. But that's sort of the exception. That's the only one that would work as part of another scenario. Like, for example, Last Things Last, if at that cabin there was a link to Sweetness in there, like, maybe that guy was investigating something right until he died, and be like, oh, my God, like, he found the lead showing this. He was looking into one last case, and like, oh, he's dead now of a heart attack. Well, let's go pick up where he left off.
And he could have been investigating like what was going on with that family because he may have been a partner to the other investigator.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah. And so like he thought something was going to go off and he wanted to let the Delta Green know, but he wasn't going to go to them until he had something concrete.
Right, because he wanted to make sure, because he felt loyal to her or something.
Yeah.
So that's one example of tying things together or modifying them to suit your own needs. Now, you also mentioned like when we were the Paranet papers, which are like that.
Like you just said, I mined the crap out of that.
Yeah,
because
that's a source book, not a formal adventure.
The way the source book is written is that there are adventures in it if you mine it and pull them out.
Yeah.
Which is why it's a great source book. It doesn't really force any adventure down your throat, but it gives you so many options. And I feel that's...
It kind of meets you halfway. It's not a fully written adventure, but it does a lot of the legwork so that you don't have to make up everything from scratch.
Yeah, it let me tie in Baba Yaga pretty well.
Yeah.
It also allowed me to run it not in Springfield and actually have like a supernatural without... It didn't forced me to put as much effort in developing another supernatural area that wasn't Chicago.
Yeah.
But it still let me run with it and keep pace with the campaign itself.
Yeah. One thing to keep in mind, a lot of newer supplements do that. I mean, there's always been those kind of campaign books, but like if you look at a lot of what Pelgrin's doing with like Armitage Files and Dracula Dossier, they like here's a template to make a campaign with. You choose it's like a recipe. Choose this, and this. Mm-hmm. 13th Age does that too. Actually, I've heard a lot of good things about the Stone Thief and there's mineable elements in the Stone Thief and some of their other things. So yeah,
we just need to find people that will play it, Ross. I'll run it. I'll run it.
So yeah, that's a discussion off the podcast. So yeah, any final thoughts on Published Adventures? I mean, again, it's
Do your homework.
If nothing else, just reading Published Adventures gives you ideas for your own stuff, and like gives you a sense of like what kind of pacing things to do.
Well, do your homework, number one.
Well, it's like in Tom, like what you said when we were, plotting out this episode, was that playing in someone else's sandbox.
Yeah.
You take extra care because, like, I'm playing with someone else's toys right now.
See, I do the opposite. I'm like, I'm going to smash the shit out of this. I like destroying other people's sandboxes.
And to me, I'm just more comfortable doing my own.
No.
I just always have been.
Well, I mean, the majority of stuff I've run has been my own material as well, because
we're awesome.
I like running other people's adventures because I get to see how I mean, for me as a game designer, that's how I get to see other game designers think and work and run scenarios. Because even the way they write them is different. Greg Stolze writes adventures very differently than Dennis Detwiller.
They'll still break your soul.
Yeah, but in different ways.
In different ways.
And
yes.
Seeing will shatter it.
Yeah,
Detwiller will just crunch it.
Yeah, kind of crush it into a soul singularity.
And just thinking, just seeing how
flatten it out with a history lesson.
I need to have Glancy run an actual Delta Green scenario for me, because I think he ran a Iconoclast, but we were literally ISIS terrorists in that one. So I don't think it's always been a World War I Cthulhu thing. So I need to go bug him about that. But you can see their approach over time, how it changes, and again, from Future Perfect to Sweetness, for example, as one example. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how other people run adventures or write adventures. So if you're in, and as a player, it's actually useful to read them if it's something the GM is going to be writing, because then you can get ideas. Because a lot of times they'll have like plot hooks for player characters, like, oh, this guy could be a bad guy for me, or you can see, especially if you're interested in a setting, like if you're interested in the Pathfinder setting, like read their adventure paths have a lot of.
I will say, Skulls and Shackles is pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. They tie everything in. And if you're interested in Delta Green, reading Delta Green scenarios also gives you an idea of how to investigate Delta Green things, like how you should be a paranoid supernatural investigator of the supernatural.
I think if I did that, it would ruin the charm of Delta Green for me.
Well, if it's new material, like the thing is, I don't think it would. Well, I mean, God's Teeth was not ruined for me because I read a bunch of published scenarios beforehand.
Well, I'll say it has more to do with my thing is that, if I had read, I intentionally don't read any of the mythos or the Lovecraftian works because you guys run it so much. I want it to be novel.
Okay.
So
I think one of the things Delta Green is doing now, the new Delta Green, one of their big pushes of their upcoming Case Officers book, which is the GM guide for it, is making the mythos new. So taking the existing stuff and making it new. I've been trying to do that myself. Recently I ran a Patreon game where people were UFOologists looking. Someone told, oh, there's a UFO that crashed in the woods. Come and check it out. Okay. And the players were all big Lovecraft fans, and they didn't guess what the actual entity was because I basically made it my own. And no spoilers. Go to our YouTube channel to listen to it.
Well, I mean, it's also good occasionally use stuff people recognize.
Well, yeah, occasionally, but it depends on the genre.
Yeah, I've had people say it was so good to see a regular Deep One scenario in Shanghai.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I think it depends. Like in D&D, oh, that's a rust monster, that can because that doesn't make it less dangerous. Like, oh shit, I've got a bunch of magic items, and now I've got to
protect my shit.
Got to protect my shit. All right, get naked and wrestle a rust monster. All right,
tear your shirt off and.
Yeah, exactly.
But what if you get barbecue sauce on your shirt, Ross?
Oh God! Just because I talk about the Alex Jones custody trial on the group meet doesn't mean we have to bring it up now because it's tainted.
Let's take the high road here.
Yeah, let's take the high road. So when we get back, we will have. And we're back.
Gate 9.
Gate 9. I might have some dungeon synth as the music for this. That's a whole, there's synthwave, there's dark synthwave, there's now dungeon synth. That's a genre.
Well, it's nice hanging out with you guys tonight.
It's not vaporwave. It's not even a wave in it. It's dungeon synth.
I don't know what vaporwave is. I only know about vaporwave.
Vaporwave. Aesthetic.
Oh, that I get.
Yeah. But
You have to
I haven't chosen. I'm not 100% certain on this. So let's get some shout outs out of the way. First off, new season of Mystery Science Theater 3000 is on Netflix. Oh my God. I backed the Kickstarter. It's so good. It's funny.
It's good, yeah. It's got Patton Oswalt's great.
Yep.
Who doesn't love Patton Oswalt?
Yeah, Jonah is a good host. The bots are good. The only complaint I have is their riffing per minute seems a little high in terms of like I don't that may not seem like a bad thing, but the older ones were a little more relaxed in terms of their pacing of jokes per minute. This one seems a little like, oh, we got to get in all the jokes in. They're funny jokes.
No, they're good. They're great riffers.
I don't know. Maybe that may be excessively.
Also,
pedantic.
they're on what? They're 2 episodes in.
Well, no, they got the whole season up.
Well,
you could watch all of them right now.
I'm going to watch them on movie night. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know if we're going to watch. We might watch other things. Yeah.
Shut up.
We might watch them on our own. You have Netflix. You can watch them whenever.
We're giving you a withering glance.
All right, that's fair. Tom, you want to talk about a podcast that you've been listening to?
Yes, Radio Free Demos. It is a podcast dedicated to strictly the game Hixent Dracones, which I ran a 4-part scenario.
Yeah. Mini campaign.
Yeah, they were good enough to interview me for it to kind of. As I say, not a lot of people outside of their who are follow their podcast run it, play it, or even have heard of it.
Yeah.
They're trying to get the word out.
Yep.
And apparently the scenarios I ran were quite good. And any questions I might have on the setting or the system, by God, they know. It is one of those I wasn't quite sure of this. Like, oh, well, let me break that down for you. Like. Oh God! Now
so are these just fans, or this is the actual creative team behind it? Behind the game.
No, they're not. It's not the creators of the game.
Okay, I think really dedicated fans.
Really dedicated fans, and they know that game inside and out.
I would hope so. I mean, if you're going to do a podcast about a subject, I hope you would know about it.
You might have noticed, like on the some of the comments on the game. I believe he goes by Faint.
Okay.
The comments we had weren't just, hey, I really love this. Oh, this was cool. This was like paragraphs of stuff about the game. That's them.
Yeah. Cool.
And they, so I feel like if I ever have a question, I'm just going to, they say, oh yeah, if you ever have a question about the game, just contact us. And well, okay. Do you know about this? Well, we've memorized this. We've broken this down into oh God, you know everything. But no, they're great guys. I still chat with the main guy that does it.
Cool.
So no, it's great. And if you like the Hixent Dracones game, give it a listen. They go over everything new as it comes out.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, again, I would hope that they would know about it. I mean, if you're going to do a podcast about something, it would be kind of interesting to hear a podcast about someone doing about something that they don't know anything about it. We're talking about coffee. What do you think about it? I don't know. Is it
Trump has a podcast on government?
No.
I went there. I went there. It's done. I feel good.
All right.
Well, I was just going to go for the slam about what are you talking about, Ross? You're on that podcast, but
whoa.
Not you, but sometimes I know I talk out my ass sometimes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the podcast, if it's about a given topic, you should know something about that topic.
I'll say that no. The podcast needs some more love. I mean, it's pretty much it's about one game.
Yeah. Cool.
And it's not D&D, so they're not. It's not a big community, but it's dedicated.
Not D&D. Table flip and walkout.
Dan, you had one shout out, right?
Yeah. Against probably my better judgment in terms of being in grad school and wanting to run campaigns and wanting to sleep, I got started with a bunch of the other RPPR fans on Conan Exiles. And it's early access. It's $30. Like a week or two ago, it was on sale. But I don't know.
It'll probably be on sale again.
Yeah, it'll probably be on sale again. It's in early access stage, so it's pretty rough. Like the basic game is there.
Do you have to pay a monthly fee for it, or is it just a one time?
Just a one time.
Okay.
However, the way the servers, you have to set up your own server right now, I guess. So we play on a private server. There are public access servers that I guess are a lot more hardcore.
And probably a lot more Russian hackers.
Yeah, probably. But the private server that we're on, it plays a lot like, and I jokingly called it before I started playing it, and now I don't jokingly call it that, but it's just, I accept it now. It's nudist Minecraft.
Yeah, after seeing some videos of it, yeah. No.
Yeah. Like, it's, you go out, you harvest materials, you build stuff, you fight monsters off so you can build stuff and be safe from monsters. There's things like,
Do you kill things?
Oh, yeah. There's lots of things to kill. You can also kidnap people and take them to a wheel of pain and turn them into your slaves.
Like players?
That's totally a Conan thing to do.
NPCs.
Okay, I was going to say.
That's totally a Conan thing to do.
Yeah. Or as we refer to it on the server, compulsory employment.
Compulsory volunteerism, yeah.
Aren't those supposed to be grain grinders?
All I know about the game is the one video I saw of some guy literally turning into a great old one to blow up a player fortress.
Yeah, that was an Avatar thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a high-level temple of the 3 gods that are in it, which are Mitra, Set, and Yog, you can summon or become the avatar of one and then wreck crap. Like, one of our bases has the max-level temple of all 3. And so, and also at the Yog temple, if you use a Yog item on a body to harvest a human body, you can harvest uncorrupted flesh and then take it to the Yog temple to make blessed flesh. And it's the only food in the game that both restores your food supply and your water supply.
It's got electrolytes.
So blessed human jerky.
Yes.
It's got electrolytes.
And as we refer to it, you have to accept Yog into your stomach.
Well, yeah.
All
right.
I know there's only one god I could go to. Set.
Yeah. Yog does have tentacles. I'm kind of surprised.
But Set's
snake.
Yeah.
Set's a snake god.
So my next shadow is actually Rise of the Dungeon Master, as I explained before.
You have already mentioned it.
I did mention the contest again. 5 copies of the book are going to be given out for just post your character sheet, D&D, your favorite character, D&D character sheet to the comments of this episode, or tweet it at me on Twitter. But
the thing we claim to have, but you say we don't.
You don't use it. It doesn't count unless you actually use it.
I used it once.
It doesn't count anymore.
I used it 3 times.
It counted that one time you did it, and now it doesn't count.
God, this is not convincing me.
I think he's making this shit up as he goes.
Hey, if you had a car and then you sold it, do you still have the car? No, you don't. So,
but I didn't sell it.
I didn't sell it. I still have the
Twitter
account.
If you gave it up, if you let it rust on the side of the road, it's you.
But if it still functions, it's still a car, and the Twitter thing still functions.
Yeah,
the Twitter thing. Good job, Tom. Way to advocate your position.
Anyway,
I don't need to.
Let me actually review the book.
Fine, you do
that I read. Rise of the Dungeon Master is a graphic novel biography of Gary Gygax and Dungeons and Dragons, the creation of it. So it goes into not only the creation.
How flattering are the drawings of Gary?
Oh, they're pretty realistic. Like it's actually drawn in a very realistic style. Like, and it's interesting because it goes in a second person thing. Like, you are Gary Gygax and you are doing this. It's like the Dungeon Master is describing things to you. And they use that the entire book, which I thought was it alternates between describing the history of the game and goes into Gary Gygax's background. It's not a in-depth biography. It's like his childhood was like this and blah blah blah. His father was like this, and he. But it alternates between the history of him and Dave Arneson, the co-creator of the game, and the game itself, how its rise to popularity, what the gaming scene was like. Spoiler alert, it was basically historical war games. People were like, "What, orcs in my games? Hell no!" And then they played and oh my god, this is amazing. And then it describes the game itself. So I feel like not only for you, for the average role player, the person who actually plays these games, those sections here's what a role playing game is like. Here are the basic concepts in it. You have attributes that measure your character's strength and intelligence and all that, and you kind of go on adventures and you level up and that kind of stuff is very basic. But one thing that's a great book to hand out to people who don't understand what role playing games is and see it's a little like this. But for those of you who are role-playing games, you can see some of how D&D got big, how they screwed themselves over, how Lorraine Williams got control of it, and a lot of the other interesting tidbits. And if you're more interested in these topics, there are other books that go into way more depth about how TSR, the company, became popular, how it lost its way, and all this other stuff. But it's a good intro, it's a good primer to these topics. And again, it's a graphic novel. It's not a very long read. It's only 1 volume. And And so yeah, it's a good little intro to a bunch of different subjects. So I liked it. So, anyways, next up, Tom.
Yeah,
You liked a video game.
I do, and I will say, it's been a long time since a game has sucked me in like this one has. It's Stellaris by Paradox Games, which I picked up during the big Paradox sale. It is kind of like Master of Orion. It's like a space empire simulator.
The 4X game.
Yeah. It's just the customability and replayability of this game is insane. And because you can design your own alien race from the ground up. Mm-hmm. You can determine what they look like. And there's like 40 or 50 different animated portraits that you can use for your species.
Can you customize those portraits? Can you Monster Factory it?
No.
Not interested.
Well, but you can make mods to have your own. I'm going to get to that in just a moment.
Nah.
Can you upload your own images?
Yes, I believe you can. But yeah, this game is
prepared to become a horde of aliens.
All right.
But
that's fair.
Well, the thing is, like they've done, like you can actually say, like, I'm going to be a reptilian race who's pacifistic and highly spiritual, or you can I'm going to be an insect race that is completely nihilistic and doesn't believe in an afterlife.
How about normal human looking?
You can play them too.
Do you play as normal humans?
I have. Well, we didn't stay that way for long because no. See, that's another thing that you can do is there are with the new Utopia expansion, which you should totally get if you're going to play this game.
Yeah.
There's like ascendant traits. Like you can choose traits for your race, but then these are like things that give you more. And one is called the flesh is weak.
Yeah.
Which means you augment your entire population.
You become the Borg.
You become cyborgs, but but you can go further.
Okay.
There's another one that you have to do. First, you have to do that. Then you can go further with synthetic evolution. Mm-hmm. You download all of your minds into full robot bodies.
Okay.
And so, literally, you can then play as we've abandoned our organic bodies and now we are fully machines. We build populations instead of grow them.
Mm.
There's also you can design your own system, your home planet. And with mods, there's you could actually literally play the Citadel of Ricks.
Oh yeah, nice.
Thog get references
from Rick and Morty.
Thog not get references.
Okay, well, it's a Rick and Morty thing.
So. Okay.
Anyone who has watched Rick and Morty will know exactly what I'm talking about.
All right. Well, it sounds like a fun game.
I've played like 5 or 6 games, full games of it, and I'm like, I still haven't explored everything there is to do here.
Cool.
It's a pretty cheap game for a lot of time.
Well, speaking of galactic spanning civilizations, there's another game I'd like to mention. A tabletop role-playing, storytelling game. It's technically an RPG called Microscope. And it's a storytelling game along the lines of The Quiet Year, but instead of like telling the story of one community, it's, basically telling the story of a civilization or a community along a much larger scale. I mean, you can modify it to be, I played it, to describe a community of small folk, kind of like Fraggle Rock kind of characters.
Sure.
But you could do it you could actually play Stellaris in Microscope. You could be like, here's what happens to these bug people. And the mechanics are like, all right, here are the certain, high points or the important points of the civilization. What happens at this point, basically, here's the Reformation or here's the Great War. And here are the characters involved in the Great War. Here's the scene in the Great War, the turning tide of the battle or whatever. And it's a collaborative storytelling game about, making a civilization. So it is a great tool to like set up a campaign for an RPG. Like, if you want to do any kind of like non-Earth based setting or, non-historical based setting, like not the real world, it's Earth, but there's now bug people in it. You can tell that story of the civilization before you started the campaign proper. Or, we're a space colonists and we're in, what happens to our space colony over 1,000 years? And so it's quite fun. Nice. We have an AP of it. We'll post it at some point. Finally, a couple of quick other mentions. One, Gaunt's Zero is on Netflix. Gaunt's is a crazy ass sci-fi action manga thing, and now it's just fucking, it's ridiculous. The basic premise is a bunch of people die, are then brought back to life by this crazy sci-fi thing called the Gaunts. And it says, all right, if you want to keep living, you have to kill aliens. I'm going to give you weapons and suits to give you super strength. and you have to kill 100 points worth of aliens. And if you don't, you have to keep doing that until you die, or you get 100 points, and then you can free yourself, or you get a super weapon and keep hunting them if you want to. So the story itself is thousands of pages long, hundreds of chapters. But this is a CGI animated movie that's now on Netflix that I just want to mention because it kind of makes the basic premise of Gaunt's. It takes a story arc in the middle of the story where there's like it's this massive battle between the hunters and the aliens, and like. And it kind of like, here's a normal person who get thrown into the situation, and he has to deal with all these crazy aliens trying to kill him and all these crazy sci-fi bullshit, and it kind of makes it comprehensible, and it kind of has like an emotional arc and stuff like that. I mean, not real emotional, but like by action movie standards, you know. And it's got really good CGI. There's actually one of the aliens is basically a Shoggoth.
Nice.
Really crazy ass Shoggoth. And because it keeps changing shapes and keeps, you know, having new boss forms. So it's kind of amazing that it can take this shaggy dog, like ridiculous epic length, very exploitive, kind of like, oh my God, what the fuck, Gaunt's, story into like a 90-minute movie that has a beginning, middle, and end. And you can understand what's going on from the beginning to the end. I thought that was like, kudos on them for making that, comprehensible. Finally, I also want to mention X-Risks for Eclipse Phase is now out in print. I finally got my contributor copy for it. Go buy that book. The writing I'm most proud of in Eclipse Phase is in it. I got to write stuff on the Titans and the Exurgent virus and Ex-Humans. It was really cool. How
much time did you spend on writing on space whales, Ross?
0. It was about monsters. I know. That's the next book. And then, of course, I literally today just got a review copy of Bestiary 6 from Pathfinder. Paizo sent. It's a very pretty looking book.
It's very pretty.
It's got a bunch of crazy ass monsters. It does have some Cthulhu Mythos monsters.
Say what you will about Pathfinder. Their art is awesome.
They also do a good job on the writing. The game mechanics we can argue about, but like they do a good job on the flavor text of things. So there's probably some really cool monsters in there. I just haven't had time to read it because it literally came in today. But I want to give them a mention because thank you for sending me a review copy. So finally, we should do the anecdote, which is of course about really. I give you an opportunity like this, and you're just like, you're not. What is the anecdote? What game?
Base Raiders, Ross.
Yes, Base Raiders.
You're not going to say it.
We said Base Raiders.
Yeah, the Base Raiders campaign you've been running.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gate 9.
Gate 9!
Gate 9!
Okay.
Wait, where did that come from?
All right.
Shit.
Yeah.
I think we got a brain worm going on here.
Yeah.
So we're in the second half of the campaign where the players are trying to deal with issues outside of themselves.
And I jumped in.
Yeah, Tom jumped in.
Literally.
Yeah.
Ha-ha!
He's basically a Battletoad. His character is.
Sorry. Battletoad.
Yeah. So so every player had a subquest to try and, change the world in some way. Most of it is like stopping some cataclysmic thing from fucking up a bunch of shit.
By the way, as I've said, I'm going to say this again, just take this moment. I'm amazed the Earth of Base Raiders hasn't been destroyed already. It's like, how do you keep existing with so many cosmic threats?
How does all 52 Earths of the DC universe still go on?
I don't read those.
Because there's a lot of vigilantes with costumes and superpowers stopping shit.
It's probably why the government hasn't cracked down.
Yeah.
They're like, I think this might actually stop the world from ending.
Yeah, exactly.
How many times has the world ended this week? Like 12.
So in one of the more recent sessions, I think the latest one.
Yeah, the one we did just last week.
Yeah, Tom's character has a quest to fight basically a great old one that I named Demise. Mm-hmm. And they tracked him down to the astral plane. So you guys, and he found out that he was feasting off the corpse of the god of a totalitarian bureaucracy.
Oh fuck yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was good. So yeah, you got
Deathstroke was there.
Death Token.
Death Token. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Death Token.
As the head of bureaucracy.
He was wearing a suit.
So, but yeah, I put in a morality pet. Dan, do you want to talk about it?
Well, yeah, it was one of those one of the running sub-jokes of this campaign has always been, hey, everyone now has a chance to close the Aaron gap. And so Caleb got his chance to do it this time.
Oh my god, yes he did.
Yeah. Because Ross gave a morality pet. He one of the entities stuck on the bureaucracy.
Who are just saying well, your soul is looks like your soul is scheduled to be devoured.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was the Feline Undead Parliamentary
Association.
Yeah.
FUPA.
FUPA. And at that point,
Caleb was like, we will save them no matter what the cost.
yeah, his eyes went a little wide, and he's like, I'll kill them all. I'll kill everyone at this table for FUPA costs.
So I made it really easy. They just had to get past the bureaucracy in order to get to demise. And then I said, if you agree with the bureaucracy and let FUPA be devoured, you can just go right on by and have your boss fight.
I don't think we would have done that, but Caleb was like, nay. 1,000 times nay.
So basically, they had to go on another quest in order
to the realm of Egyptian gods.
Yeah, to basically have someone outweigh the bureaucracy. To basically have an objection and
objection.
Yeah.
I'll give you a hint. It's go to the comic of How to Distract an Egyptian Goddess.
Yeah,
shows the goddess there. Then there's a box.
Yeah.
Egyptian goddess gets in the box.
Basically. So that became a whole thing, and the players only had to, put their souls at risk in order to do that. So,
but we did it, and it was glorious.
It was glorious.
And then it was one of those times that a PC going full bore to save a morality pet didn't blow up in our faces.
Yeah. And then we fought. Then we fought Demise.
Well, Sean, his character suffered quite a bit for that. So
he lost a pinky.
Explosive.
He took a severe consequence.
Yeah. He lost a pinky. Consequences.
I will say, then we fought an old one or something.
No. The campaign is nearly done. We only have a couple sessions left.
I fulfilled my promise to my queen.
Yay!
Yeah.
Now I'm like,
now you have to fulfill that other promise that we won't talk about because spoilers.
I've already done that.
Did you? You said you were going to.
I said, yeah.
I didn't have any reason for him not to be able to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys have access to a teleporter. It's pretty easy to go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
So
it's good.
The ramifications of that are.
It's good. I can't exactly.
Well, that's going to be a base raiders campaign all of its own.
Yeah. Well, come on. I can't exactly fly Delta.
Yeah.
And I won't fly United.
Well, yeah.
But then again, try to drag Kurzik.
In the grimdark future, only United is literally the only.
I will say, try to drag Kurzik off of a flight.
Oh man, imagine a Fury Road treatment of airplane flying.
Oh good God, yes.
It's United, and you just have to get all shiny and chrome before you board. And yeah.
And then when you take your seat, witness me.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
still haven't seen that movie.
It is so good.
It's pretty good.
I own it. We'll watch
it. But that ends episode 141 out of the can.
So this episode's in the can now.
Whoa! You see what he did there?
We've gone full circle, folks. Thank you, Dan. We'll talk to you guys later.
Also, K9.